Hi all, let's discuss about method overloading and method overriding. In my previous session, I already discussed about this method overloading. I will give you the link, you can go through it. Let's discuss about method overriding. I will discuss all the special cases. Whenever we are overriding a method, what are the things you need to take care. So that will not only help you to understand the concept, but also you can crack any of the interview. It will be really interesting session. Please go through it, and if you are new to the channel, please subscribe this channel to get new videos, and it will be really motivate me. You can like and comment this video. If you have any doubt, you please comment. If you don't have any doubt also, you please like and comment so that it will be motivate me. Okay, without further delay, let's discuss. Okay, method overriding means in a parent class we are having a method and we are redefining the same method in child class. So it is uses at the time of inheritance. So that is called method overriding. So you no need to change the method arguments. But in case of method overloading, in a same class itself, you will write multiple method with the same name. But if you write same name, multiple same methods in a same class, so it will be duplicate methods, right? No. So for that, what you need to do, the arguments will change. The argument will change means the number of arguments or order of arguments or types of argument will be different. So that is method overloading. But in case of method overriding, even the name and arguments both will be same. Let's see one example. You will more clarity on that. Okay, I will create a class for you. Okay, I will say test. So it's a test class. And now let's say I'm having a class called car, and I'm having a another class called sports car. This car, I'm having one method. I will say public void show method. So I will say I am from base class, and this sports car extending from car. So I wanted to override this method. I wanted to override this method. Okay. So here I will change the body from child class. So now what I will do? Let me create a main method. And I will create a object of the sports car. I will say sports car equal to new sports car, and I will call that show method. You see, so if we'll call the show method, it will call this show method, right? Overridden show method. I am from child class because we are overriding that. So this is called method overriding. You know that. Okay. So now the question is, we'll discuss the special scenarios. Okay, one by one. So now the case one, overriding and method return type. Do override method must have same return type or subtypes? Here the return type. Let me change a return type here. Suppose here int. I will say here int return type, and I'm providing a variable arguments int a. For example, I will say int a, and this one int. So let me return a value, dummy value. The return type we are passing means it must have to return something. So no problem. That means if a method, so you are taking a arguments, right? We need to pass. Let me pass some dummy value 5. You can call. No problem. So that means if you are overriding a method, the return type must be same. If we'll make it different, if I will say float, so you will get error, compile time error. Okay. But what you can do, suppose here I will say this is returning object and this is returning object. No problem. It's okay. Same means must be same means okay. And one more rule is, if I will say here string means you will pass null here. Okay. This is return type error. So no problem. So you see here object, here string. It's possible, no problem. So if parent class is whatever return type is returning, child class must be same or subtypes of that. That means a child class. So string is a subtype of object. So string is a child class of object, you know, right? Object is the super class of all the classes. That's what covariant it's possible. So if a method, if a parent class method, if it is returning some return type and the overridden method must be same return type, otherwise child class return type, that is called covariant return type is possible. That's what it is saying. Okay, it support covariant return type. If it will not give same or covariant, then you will hit compile time error. That is the special case 1. And then see the case 2. You know, private, public, protected, these are the modifiers, right? How this private, protected, public is playing the roles in overriding case. Okay, so you know, private means it is not accessible outside the class. Default means it is accessible outside of the class but inside the package. Protected means we can access outside of the package if that class inheriting from the other class which is another package or same package. You can access outside of the package if it is inherited class. Public means outside of the package, inside the package you can access anywhere. Public, this access modifiers already you know, right? So what is the role is playing at the time of inheriting? Okay, let's say here you see, here we are having public, no problem, we are able to override that method. Suppose I will make it public and protected, so you will get error. The rule is you cannot restrict. If parent class access specifier is public and you are overriding the methods, you cannot restrict. Protected is more restrict, right? So you cannot make it. So here if it is protected, then you can make it protected, no problem. But here if it is public, you cannot make it protected. Even you cannot make it default. If you are not mentioning anything, this is default access specifier, you cannot make it. Okay, even you cannot make it private. Okay, if you are not making anything here, here means default, here default, it's okay, default you are making. And here default means you cannot make it private, or you cannot make, if you make it protected or public, it's okay, you are not restricting, right? You cannot give less access specifier here. So this is the rule. The rule is we cannot restrict the access modifiers in the child class. If you will do that, you will get a compile time error. Here public is there, here public is there, and if you will make it private or default, you will get, or protected, you will get a compile time error. That is the case number 2. Then overriding and exception handling. You know, right? Exception handling. We are having two types of exception, right? One is checked exception and another is unchecked exception. You should have some small knowledge about it. Then only you can understand. So checked exception means at compile time error, at compile time it will show. Like IO exception, file not found exception, method not found exception. That is checked exception. Runtime exception means at runtime it is occurring. You wrote some logic, that logic got wrong and it is hitting a exception. So that is runtime exception. Okay. So compile time it cannot be recognized. That is unchecked exception we can say. So checked exception means compile time exception. So here the rule is coming. So if superclass overridden method does not throw an exception, then subclass overridden method can only throws unchecked exception. Throwing checked exception will lead to a compile time error. So first rule, please understand. So you see here, let me make it public. What I am trying to say? What is the rule number 3? Here you see, if super type not throwing any exception, is it throwing any exception? No. So you can throw any unchecked exception. You can throw any unchecked exception. Suppose null pointer exception. Oh, this is a unchecked exception. You can throw it, it will run, no problem. If it is not throwing, you can throw any unchecked exception, but you cannot throw any checked exception. If you will try to throw a checked exception, it will give a compile time error. Okay. So that is first rule. Second rule is, if it is throwing a if super type method if throwing a checked exception. So for example, this super type method throwing a checked exception. So this is file not found exception is a checked exception. Then subtype exception, if it is not throwing anything, then it is okay. Otherwise, if it is throwing, then it has to throw either same. It has to throw either same or subclass of this. Okay. For example, you see file not found. Suppose this is throwing IO exception. So IO exception it is this is throwing IO exception. So you can either throw IO exception. Okay. Here also you need to throw, because that throw is propagation happening. Okay. So that is separate concept in the exception handling. You will read later. Okay. So what I'm trying to say, you concentrate here. So here, if the base class method is throwing a exception, it must be same exception or child exception. So IO exception, child exception is file not found exception. You can throw it, no problem. Either same or less, child exception. You cannot throw here exception. If you throw exception, you will get a compile time error, because exception is the super class of IO exception. Got it, right? So that rule it is showing, it is telling. If the superclass overridden method does throw a checked exception, then subclass overridden method can only throw same or subtype exception, same or child class exception or subtype exception. Also, there is no issue if subclass method is not throwing any exception. Throwing parent class exception, then it will give you compile time error. You see that things I showed you, right? In subtype, if IO exception means you can throw either IO exception, same you can throw, or you can throw subtype of IO exception. IO exception subtypes is file not found exception. Okay, we are having exception hierarchy. Okay, like this. You see, so object throwable, then exception. You see, IO exception, subtype. File not found exception is the subtype. Then file not found exception, super type is IO exception. IO exception, super class is exception. Like that it will come. So unchecked exception, these are the unchecked exception. Arithmetic null pointer exception, class not found, sorry, illegal argument exception. So runtime exception is the super class of that. Okay. So that is a separate topic. So I wanted to tell, this is the rule, exception handling with exception with overriding. Now let's see case 4, overriding abstract method. You know abstract class and interface, right? Let me create a one more class for you. I will say demo. So let's say I'm having a abstract class. We'll say class Okay, abstract class xyz, any name I am giving, and in this abstract class I am having a abstract method. I am having a abstract method, and I am having a concrete method. So, so what is the rule? If there is a abstract class is there, and you are extending that abstract class, and you are extending that abstract class, then you must have to overloads override all the abstract method. That is the rule. I am extending the xyz abstract class. If you are extending abstract class, you must have to implement all the abstract methods. Here abstract method is so, right, this is one abstract method, you need to override. There is alternative. If you are not overriding, you have to define this class also abstract class. Okay, so the overriding class means you have to override. If it is a abstract class, all the undefined method, all the abstract method you need to override. That is abstract class. Okay, if there is a interface, for example this is a interface, okay, and in this interface you are having, in interface no need to mention it is abstract and public. So this is a interface yz. So if it is a interface, all the methods in the interface is by default abstract and public. Say void image. So two methods is there. So if you are extending this implement, so whenever you will implement the interface, you need to use a implements keyword, not extend keyword. Okay, so implements xyz. So you need to override the two method. See, need to override. Okay, so this is abstract. The rule is overriding with abstract methods by abstract class or implementing interface. This is case 4. Case 5 is invoking a overridden method from subclass. Okay, that means calling. Okay, we'll see what is happening here. You see, so this is my parent class, and I overridden the show method here. This is my child class. So if I'll call that car dot show, it is calling that child class, right? It is calling from this child class overridden method. So what I wanted to, instead of calling this child class, I want it will call to the parent class. What you will do, even though you will pass anything, right? If you pass your car reference, no, nothing will be impact. Okay, it will call to the overridden method always. But what I want if I'll call to this show method, instead of calling this overridden method, it will call to the parent class method. So there is a alternative. What you will do, you will use super. So you remember the super, whenever you will call, that will be the first line of the method. And once the control will go, right, the super, and it is throwing some exception, that's right, you need to throw. Better I will remove this. I don't want to confuse. I'm removing this exception case because that case already I explained. Okay. Okay. Now you see. So now super dot show. That means I don't want to call the child class method. I wanted to call the parent class method. It is super dot show. It will call the base class first. Then the control coming, and it is coming here. Okay. So if I'll say sports car, if I'll say, sorry, if I call with this, it is calling. That means from child class method you wanted to call to parent class method. So super dot show if you call it, you will be able to call. Okay, that is the case number 5. Then case number 6, which method we cannot override? We cannot override final method, we cannot override static method, we cannot override, and private method we cannot override. So here if I'll make it, if I'll say static, so you see we are getting compile time error. It's saying remove static. We cannot override a static method. If I'll say final, final means we are restricting to override. We cannot override a final method. If I'll say private, we cannot override a private method. Private means it is private to the class. We cannot override. Okay. So we cannot override final method. We cannot override static method. We cannot override private method. Okay. Private, final and static method we cannot override. Then last case, if you are overriding a synchronized method or a strict floating point, strict FP method, what will happen? Nothing will happen. So let me change first. So you see it is working fine. Sorry, 2 times public I wrote. So now what is saying? You see it is running as expected. Now is saying if a method is synchronized, you add here synchronized keyword. You add here, nothing will happen. So you add that synchronized keyword here and remove here, nothing will happen. Same. So synchronize or strict FP. If you add here strict FP floating point, so nothing will happen. This synchronize and strict FP is not playing a no impact. So you can add or you can remove, nothing will happen. You can remove here, you can add there. So the synchronize and strict FP, if you add or remove, no impact. Okay. So these are the special cases. Okay. All cases is important. 7 cases I told. Okay. So you go through it, you practice. It will be really helpful to crack any of the interviews. Okay. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you really like the video, please like and please put some comment. If you have any doubt, please put some comment. I will respond it. And if you are new to the channel, please subscribe this channel so that it will be really motivate me to create some more videos for you. Thank you so much.